Very good evening, dear listeners, present and prospective. This evening, I have decided to open up my mind on the topic journalism within journalism, checkbook journalism. Uh, all of us know journalism consists in gathering information and communicating the information to all the people of a society so that they are aware of the happenings in that society. And as a result of that, they conduct themselves, they take care of themselves, they plan their future actions according to the information communicated to them. Journalism is supposed to be one of the pillars of modern democratic society. All over the world, they count four pillars that function in a democratic society for the good of the society. And these are the legislative, where laws are made. Then we have the executive, where laws are executed, implemented. Then there is judiciary, where if any violations of laws are done, or if laws have been made, framed, not according to the constitution prevailing in the society, then the judiciary sits on judgment and sets aside the laws made unconstitutionally, or if the court thinks that the laws have no problem and laws do not confront or do not go against the constitutional provisions, then the court passes or gives green signal for the implementation of the laws. And the fourth stage, that is journalism, which now is also known as one of the ministries in the governments of the world. Terminologies may be different, but the one that is often used in many parts of the world, information and broadcasting. That information in all fields of activities gathered and communication of the information of different sorts is done for the benefit of society. Right to education is a right. So right to information also is a right. Uh, People in a civilized society need to know what is happening, what the government is doing for them, what they are doing for their society, what activities are fair activities, and what activities are there being done overground or underground that harm the society as a whole. And therefore, it is very important that all the pillars of a democratic society function fairly, function honestly, function according to the rule of laws. And if that doesn't happen, then society starts degenerating. Now, I would like to say something about the tradition of journalism or a bit of the history of journalism. It is said that when people began living together in a society, then in that very society, there would be some people, prominent people, maybe literate or maybe educated, intelligent, tolerant, and welfare minded. And such people, 4 or 5 people in a society of 10,000, 15,000, they would be moving around and they would have their own helpers and they would gather information about day to day happenings. And orally in the evening or next day in the morning, their representatives would be announcing orally with the beats of a drum that these things have happened. So be aware of these things or be informed of what has happened and set your conduct, set your behavior or do your activities according to the thought that you derive from these happenings. So that might have been the beginning. Formal journalism uh, perhaps started in Europe, and that started in the 16th century, late in the early 17th century, Daniel Defoe is one of the novelists of the 17th century. And he makes use of the features of journalism in his fiction writing. And scholars and critics have said that his novels are very much, you can say, suffused with the features of journalism. He makes a list of characters, or he introduces characters whose jobs are only to move out, fan out to places in different parts of the society, of the country, of the state, and gather information. And the information is passed on to the authorities or to the elder members or eldermen of the society. Now, in our times, journalism has become one of the strongest, one of the most influential pillars in our democracy. It is said that all the powerful nations have, you can say, given full freedom to the field of information, broadcasting, to the field of communication, to the field of, you can say, press actions or electronic, suppose you can say, gathering of information and then disseminating that information for the welfare of the society. However, as the time has, you can say, passed, and society has been, you can say, commercialized, market orientation has been the most important orientation, because in the 21st century, even in the late 20th century, commercialism, materialism, or you can say this earning money anyhow, making money anyhow, growing business at the cost of moralities, at the cost of values. These things have happened. We have had mushroom growth of agencies, press agencies, or you can say information agencies, communication. Earlier, we had the print media, and so print journalism, radio journalism. And after the dawn of television, we had this television, one of the powerful, you can say, media, because there you have audio also, visuals also. And so people like this medium of having information and also making communication effective, because people would be attracted to the pictures, to the visuals, and they would have the support of the audio. But still, radio journalism, press journalism, sometimes people are supposed to be more authentic than the television journalism. So, because you have attractions and you have more money here, journalists working for the television, they are paid more, and they concoct stories, and they make visuals which are not, you can say, authentic. Sometimes they have a spurious production of pictures, and that is how it started. Means making money, and in order to make money, making fake news. So it is not only journalism where this checkbook journalism has cropped up in all fields of our life, and not only in one country or one continent of the world, but in all the continents of the world. Rich and powerful countries, educated countries, perhaps you have lower degree of, you can say, malpractices in the field of journalism. But in the third world countries, poor countries, everybody wants to be rich overnight. Politicians, they compete with one another to be rich, and sometimes fabulously rich or filthily rich over time. They make use of the money for, you can say, luxurious living for themselves and for their relatives and friends, and much money they spend on winning elections when elections are held every 3 years or every 5 years. So making money has become the main purpose of people. Even in rich countries, you see that business people, okay, business has to grow, richer people have to be richer, more, you can say, rich, but then unfair means, or you can say immoral measures, immoral ways, shady, you can say, ways are resorted to so that more money comes in very little time. And that has seeped in, or that has come in journalism, because it is infection. If dishonesty in the human beings starts in one place, it's something like infectious disease, and that spreads out. And in our society, we have seen that those people who have money, much money, they are respected. Why? Because they can give donations, they can give support, financial support to people who need. Generally, they don't give financial support, or you can say money support, to the poor who are meritorious, willing to work, willing to go ahead in life. Students who are very poor and they don't have money to buy books, they don't have clothes, they don't have nice place to stay. To them, very few people come forward to help them with money. But you help those where or from whom you can have some advertisement, or you can have some publicity. So you donate to, you can say, an organization, INGO or NGO, or INGOs and NGOs. They give money to the so-called poor sections of society all over the world. Where do they get money from? They get money from the business people who are filthily rich, and they have to make their money white. So, in order to make their money white, or in order to make, you can say, unseen black money to some extent white, they give donations and all that. Now, it is happening everywhere. In political fields, you see that elections are held even in a country like America. Parties happen to get donations from the people. And mostly these people are from the business communities, or they are, you can say, cine actors who, you can say, make lots of money, or sports people who sometimes get help from the politicians to realize their personal ambitions. So there is a nexus. And journalism has not been, you can say, left out. It has also been infected. The main purpose of journalism is to see, is to supervise, is to oversee how things are happening. And even if it is the fourth estate, it is supposed to be the most influential. If the field of journalism, or the people who work in journalism, if they are honest, then a lot of harm will be prevented, you can say, from inflicting the poor people, the, you can say, good people. The bad people, with the help of money or with the power of money, they go scot-free. They bribe policemen, they commit murders, and they bribe policemen, you can say, paying them thousands upon thousands of dollars or euros or millions of rupees, and they get off the hooks of the laws. But the poor people, sometimes they are made scapegoats. They have not committed the crimes, but they even admit that they have committed the crimes, to be the seals for the real criminals, because these people need money. So they take money, and you can say, accept that they are the real criminals. They stay in the jail for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and the money, hefty amount of money that they get, actually is given to these people's families, and they, you can say, they live comfortably, or moderately comfortably. So these shady and these heinous activities, heinous crimes are committed. Now, my idea was to develop how journalism, a very, you can say, very holy activity field, has been infected. So it is not going according to its standard values. It is not functioning as it should be functioning. Of late, means towards the last decades of the 20th century, and now it is everywhere. So earlier, checkbook journalism, which consists in, or which, you can say, reflects the use of money, the use of fraud, the use of deceit, you can say, the use of all kinds of unfair means, in making news stories seemingly authentic, seemingly real, but all these are made up. Negative news stories get publicity, and this has become a tendency these days, that 80% to 90% of the news stories or the events they don't have positivity, negativity, vulgarity, sex, violence, rapes. Most of the people, when they buy a newspaper, then they go to the page or pages where you have these stories of crimes, murders, smuggling, cheatings, rapes, sexual, you can say immoralities, because they like it. And people, the sellers of the newspaper, the makers of the newspapers, the owners of the, you can say, newspaper houses, the owners of the television channels, the owner of even the electronic media now, internet. So you have internet also is one of the media. And here also you have lots of money invested and lots of agents actually function. And they function not on the values, on the set principles, but because of the lure of money. The more you can say what you call that sentences, the more you can say attractive news, sensational news, sexually attractive news they publish, or they, you can say, air. And the more audience you have, the more people like, the more people appreciate, and you become, such journalists become hero, because they bring in very spicy news stories, spicy pictures, which are sexually suggestive. They make even cine actors and actresses give pictures or pose for pictures which are of no use. These pictures can't cultivate civility in our society. These pictures can't refine our sensibility. These pictures can't make us, you can say, active in our fields, honest in our field. But these pictures only uh, deprave us. These pictures only make us go the wrong ways, because this is human nature, that what is good, what is really very good, is difficult to perform, is difficult to follow. And what is not good, what is immoral, what is vulgar, that is attractive. It has a kind of taste that most of the people like, as most of the people who are, you can say, health conscious and who want others also to follow the same sort of lifestyle, without having spicy food, without having, you can say, alcohol, without having so many other things which, you can say, rob our health or which affect our health very badly. But most of us, we like spicy food. We like to have drinks of different kinds. We like to go through cocktail parties, and we become forward, modern, ultra modern. Sometimes you go to a party where you have all kinds of food items, and you can't digest all these food items, but in the name of camaraderie, in the name of multiculturalism, in the name of satisfying or making everybody pleased, you even take those food items which you can't digest and which your system cannot take in. And you do all that because you have to be one of them. You have to grant the majority. As they say, majority must be granted. You don't want to be a loner. You don't want to be seen as an odd person. Oh, he's a gentle sort of fellow. He's an odd person. He doesn't fall into, you can say, the trend, or he's not trendy. And many people who know that what they are going to do because of temptation or because of being trendy, not all right. But then they succumb to peer pressure, or they succumb to all kinds of, you can say, what we call pressures. And so journalism, which should be the pure one, to make people informed, to make people have better ideas, to make people have interest in games and sports, good politics and all that, they don't do. So sometimes protest versus protest means the same set of journalists representing, you can say, uh, print media house, electronic media house, they pay some people, checkbook journalism. It has reference to the, you can see what we call movement of money, and generally black money from the hands of the, you can say, hoarders, black marketeers, and filthy business people or filthy politicians. And the money is doled out to some of the unemployed people. And they wait for such journalists. They wait for the cameraman. And when they are asked that would they like to throw stones at a building or set a building on fire, and they would be paid $500, $200, whatever. And because they are unemployed, even if they are not unemployed, underemployed, or even if they are employed, they do it part-time. And they wait for such journalists because they know people who are bad, they know the ways worse people operate. Because without the cooperation of the bad people, the worst people or the worst people cannot function. They cannot achieve their goals, nefarious and black goals. So sometimes we see that money is pumped in, and that money is put into what you call this kind of movement. So people fight among themselves for half an hour. A house is set on fire, a factory is set on fire. Big bats become free for all, no holds barred. And the journalists, they take pictures and they make stories, and they send the stories to their, you can say, what you call chief of the bureau, or the important people in the press or in the electronic media, wherever. Suppose these bosses are, you can say, sitting, and they get, you can say, taps on their backs also. They get money also. They get promotions also. They get to visit internationally famous places. They go to attend international meets, because the more money you have and the more spicy news stories you make, the more, you can say, what you call uh, pictures, sexy pictures, or you can say pictures that sell, because sex sells. If you have a book and it is a nice book written by a very nice person, the book doesn't sell even 100. And if there is a book on sex and sexuality, vulgarity, and all that, you have 20,000 in 1 hour, half an hour it sells. So a newspaper that is based on the values of humanity, a newspaper editor who functions very nicely, he threatened, he's kicked out. And the one who can make the newspaper extremely rich in revenue collection within 4 or 5 years, that person is brought in. A good newspaper editor, a good theater manager, a good, suppose you can say, school teacher, a good politician, you can't survive. Sometimes you get elected, sometimes you get appointed, and that is by fluke. And once your honesty is, you can say, what we call, seen to be continuous, your integrity is seen to be invulnerable, you are, you can say, spotted, and you are not fit for the job. Who are fit for the job, or who are fit for the jobs in different fields of human activity? It is those who are intelligent, cunning, but intelligent, not positively intelligent, intelligent in inventing the ways to, you can see, what we call, cut short the ways which should be long, because long ways you take, it takes time. Your journey is, you can see, what you call, is delayed half an hour, 1 hour, but then that is a nice journey. So everybody goes for the shortcut. You have shortcut ways to earn money. And there are people, honest journalists, they get killed. You see every now and then in different parts of the world, what happens in Afghanistan, what happens in Iraq, Iran, in some of the countries where you have revolutions, counter revolutions. And you know, these revolutions or rebels and counter rebels, they are sometimes funded by the same source. So the funder is the same source, and this funder funds the protesters, and the same funder, you can say, funds the counter protesters. So this is a show that is so much satanic. And journalism, where we have checkbook journalism, it is satanic journalism. That a woman is ready. A woman, sometimes she is ready because she needs money. She wants to have dresses. She wants to have cameras. She wants to stay in five-star hotels. She wants to have the company of rich men. And then she is approached by the, you can say, journalists who indulge in checkbook journalism. That she would report a case in the police office that she has been raped, or she has been, you can say, molested, or her modesty has been outraged, and she names a certain person or a group of people, and then these checkbook journalists, they go there, and then they make stories, and they even convince the police people and journalists, police people, and these bad people. Means a woman, you can't imagine how can a woman say that she has been raped when rape is not a good thing to happen to any woman. So if rape has not taken place on her, and even then she says that she has been a victim to rape, you can understand the falling mentality or the falling morality of people. Because such a woman, if she, you can say, makes 5, 6 cases in a year or in 10 years, then she becomes, you can say, a millionaire, and she lives the rest of her life in wealth. But is that wealth the right wealth? Is that wealth going to make her happy, really happy? Every time she indulges in, you can say, what you call, in immoral things, her conscience tells her that it's not all right. So a bad man also, a man, not only woman, a man also, in the same situation, of the same mentality of making money anyhow, that you become a smuggler's hand, and you can say from within the border of a country, up to up to the other, you can say, what you call, area of the across the border. You take certain thing and you take money, and the journalists are there, and they don't report correctly. Rather, they bribe people to make them, you can say, do whatever they want them to do, so that stories are made, and their, you can say, cases are brightened, their career is furthered, and they become famous, and means always they are the winners. That is why journalism within journalism, checkbook journalism, is a menace. It is the cancer, and it is a blot on the profession of journalism. It's a blot on the integrity of the people who call themselves journalists. But the reality is that 10 to 20% journalists who are honest and who abide by the moral values, the, you can say, occupational values of the profession, these people are always sidetracked somehow, because they have to live, they have to earn, they have to be on the job. So they continue there, although many of them, they leave, they go to the other areas where they work as laborers also, but they are not willing to continue as journalists at the cost of their, you can say, moral values, or at the cost of their principles. And they are, because they suffer, they have suffocation. As a good police officer surrounded by corrupt police officers in any society, in any place, you can't survive. So many of the smart, good police officers who are really good for society, good for policing, and they leave the job, and they get sidelined. Many of them get frustrated because their income is stopped. They don't have any, you can say, means to survive. Their families suffer. So in frustration, they commit suicide also. And such cases are not few and far between. Such cases crop up everywhere. And this is common knowledge. But then, who are going to control? Because no, there is a tide. Means 80% of the people, they think that, well, go along the wind, don't go against the wind. If 80% people are corrupt, then what will happen if I also join the bandwagon? I also become corrupt, 80%, and then maybe 80.005%. Very few people have the guts that they would continue to suffer, or they would suffer, and they would suffer to the extent that you can't even imagine, but they would not give up their principles. They would not give up their morals as journalists or professionals in journalism. Such people, and the tribe of such people is disappearing very fast. And the tribe of the people who are money minded, selfish, greedy, extremely changeable, they don't have any problem changing friends. They get their friends murdered. They call them friends also, but they get them murdered. They get their characters tarnished, and they have an upper hand. But it is a saying, and it is a good saying, that those who live by guns die by guns. So immoral activities or bad money, well, for one generation, two generations, three generations, but finally the punishment comes. Punishment may not come to the, you can say, sinner, to the criminal, but to the progeny, to the people, to the children that they beget. And that is why my idea is that even now, you see that in a press, or suppose in a television channel, everybody knows that these people, they go to businessmen, they have good dinners, they have good lunches, and they make stories sometimes, and the stories are all right, but because they get threatened or they get the lure of the money, so they retract, they change their stories, and they say that they wrote the previous stories because of the, you can say, what you call stalking done to them by others, or you can say because they had been threatened that you go against certain business people, certain politicians, and that is why they went. So they retracted because their retraction was good, because they wanted to come out of the threat. So this vicious circle is everywhere present in all profession, and journalism, because it is very important, it affects the whole society. So if the rot has set in so deep in journalism, in the form of checkbook journalism, where nothing happens, everything happens because of money, where evidences are, you can say, bought, witnesses are bought, stories are made, where what things have not happened, and they show that these things have not only happened, but happened so terribly. It is therefore very important on the part of those people, even if they constitute only 5% of the population, only 10% of the population, if these people, honest people, good people, people of character, people of foresight, if they come together and if they resist, then definitely they will suffer. But if they continue to suffer and continue to offer resistance to nefarious activities in whatever field, particularly in journalism, then there might come out a ray of hope for the people. Uh, Hence, my idea uh, has been to share my experience, what I have read in the newspapers, what I see, and what I perceive in the society. It's a fact that they say corruption in this field or that field, but I say we ourselves have become corrupt. Even if we are not directly involved in corruption, we don't resist, we don't raise our voices, we don't come together protesting, you can say, the corrupt people, or boycotting the corrupt people, you can say exposing them, then nothing can happen. And in that case, we too shall be partaking of what we call the blame, that corrupt they are, corrupt we are too, because we have not raised our voice against them. We have not come together, even if we are only 5%, 10%, and we have to fight 90%. Challenges are, you can say, huge. Challenges are very terrible, but then we have to start. And if we give a start, gradually people will come to our side. So even if one person, sometimes we see that one person, you can say, takes it upon himself to fight against 1 crore people. So, of course, practical sense says that he gets eliminated before he does anything. But sometimes it also happens that one person goes on fighting, goes on suffering, goes on having, you can say, agonizing experiences of life. But before he dies, at least 25,000 people are on his side. And what he leaves behind, you can say, before his death, that is acquired by another person like him, another person like him. So those who come after him, you can say, these people are the products of inspiration, inspiration that came to them from him. So who knows that after some time, the society gradually will be the society of fair people, good people, and therefore journalism, such an important sector, we call this sector one of the pillars uh, it has people who come into this profession, this legal profession, this profession, all professions. But some professions are more important, more influential in making public opinions. So it is very important that checkbook journalism that started and that has grown up now, it needs to be, you can say what you call, given a kind of a strike, surgical strike, and a strike by the people who are honest and fair-minded and far-sighted and having a kind of interest in not one section or one aspect of society, but all sections, all aspects of society. It's imperative on such people's part to come together, to come forward sooner than later. Otherwise, it will be too late and nothing will happen. And the degeneration will speed up. And we shall be so much ashamed of ourselves, calling ourselves, you can say what we call, enlightened people, intellectually sound people. Because if you are intellectually sound, if you are futuristic, far-sighted, then you have to come into action. So, gentlemen, gentle ladies and gentlemen, all of you understand that checkbook journalism is a menace. It's a cancer, and it will make us all diseased, and it will harm all of us today or tomorrow. And that is why it is important that we expose such people who are in this profession of journalism. First, we should convince them. First, we should speak to them that what they have been doing or they have started doing is not all right. They should put a stop to all these, you can say, happenings or all these habits. Otherwise, they won't only harm others, but they would harm themselves ultimately. So much. Thanks a lot. God bless us all. Bye bye.